We've proven our argument is valid. That means that if the premise statements are true, the conclusion statement will also be true. So the question now is this valid argument a sound argument? And what we're asking when we ask that question is this: are all of the premises of this valid argument true statements? Because if they are, the conclusion will also be a true statement. So let's look at premise number one. Premise number one says all mechanistic materialists are people who believe everything is governed by deterministic laws. And I'm going to argue to you that that statement is definitionally true. A mechanistic materialist is a person who believes that reality is constituted entirely of stuff. Everything that exists is something that's physical, and as a consequence, everything that occurs the way that it does because of the physical natural laws operating on the stuff of the universe at the moment events take place. Everything is determined to happen in the way that it does, given the way that reality is structured at any given moment. This is why we can predict what the phase of the moon is going to be 10 years from now, or what the tides are going to be tomorrow. It's why when we see a rock fall and land in a particular location, we can realize that given the way that gravity operates, the size of the rock, the mass, the slope, all of those circumstances, we realize the rock had to fall exactly where it did. It was determined to land where it landed, given the way that the mechanical, physical laws of the universe operate on that rock as it falls. So premise number one seems to be definitionally true. Premise number two says no people who believe everything is governed by deterministic laws are people who believe in free will. I'm going to argue to you that that premise is also true. If free will is the ability to choose from among options and implies that you don't have to make the decisions that you do, that you could have chosen otherwise, and you believe that everything is governed by deterministic laws, then there would be no room for free will. That all of these decisions that you think you're making, they're actually sort of being made for you by your brain. You're sort of experiencing them as a kind of passive observer. And the physical laws of the universe are operating on your brain in the same way that they're operating on that rock when it falls. So while it feels like you're freely making decisions, feeling free isn't the same as being free, a determinist might say. So it seems like if you're a person who believes everything is governed by deterministic laws, then there would be no room for free will if everything was. And that leads to the conclusion here that no mechanistic materialists are people who believe in free will. And so the question you might ponder for yourself is, am I a mechanistic materialist? Are you a mechanistic materialist? Are you a person that believes that reality is constituted entirely of physical stuff? Because if you are, this argument seems to lead to the conclusion that you don't actually experience free will in the way that you think you do. On the other hand, if you want to argue that reality is not constituted entirely by stuff, that there's something non-material or non-physical that exists, you're going to want to think about how exactly you would make that argument. Because you don't have science as a tool available to you when you make that argument, because science can only find what it can look for. And the only thing that science can look for are things that are observable. And things that are observable are physical things, material things. So you're going to have to think of, if you want to believe in free will, you're going to have to get yourself out of this trap of the mechanistic materialist worldview, and you're going to have to do that with tools other than simply empirical science. How are you going to do that?